Episode 49. Welcome to the Shay Hello podcast. My name is Casey Lynn. I'm joined by my co-host Bill Pulsifer as we have a packed episode for you. Before we start, I want to thank Chris behind the scenes. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe at Shay Hello Media. Hit that button, and you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Chrome, Firefox, you name it. We got a big show today, but before we go into what the hell we're going to be talking about as spring training's underway for the Mets and 29 other teams, Bill, how the hell are you doing today?
I'm cold. If I go outside, it's freezing up here, man.
What are we talking about in the teens?
Real feel is in the teens, yeah. But
Wow.
it's low 20s. It's going to go down into the teens tonight. But during the day today, I think it said it felt like 14.
Okay, well,
So
global
not baseball
warming.
weather.
Not
What's that?
baseball weather.
No,
I was going to
not
say
yet.
global warming took a back seat for the last couple
Now,
of
see,
days.
you sound ignorant now. It's climate change. It's different.
Climate change.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's all.
you're right. I know baseball. Maybe other things not so much.
I know nothing.
There you go. That's not true. We have a big show today. I'm just going to run down what we're going to discuss for everyone watching and listening. We're going to hit on spring training. I had the privilege of going to Clover Park in Port St. Lucie for the first two workouts last week. So I want to just talk about that and the experience. We're going to talk about Frankie Montas, who had an injury disclosed a couple days ago, big hit to the Mets rotation, the trickle down effect. Spring training is in full swing. Also, obviously, all the players are there for the full squad workouts. So we'll talk about a little bit about Juan Soto and his first appearance. Pete Alonso came on Monday. And we're also going to talk about some interesting remarks from Jose Iglesias, who is still a free agent. And we'll get into that a little bit later. We have mailbag, quick pitches, and also a trivia question that's pretty hard, and I'm going to ask that trivia question this podcast and the next two. And if anyone gets the answer, and for all three trivia questions, there'll be a nice prize for that person. I just have to figure out what signed baseball that person will win. So tune in, obviously, for today. You're tuning in, and the next two. So that's what we got on tap. And like always, Bill, episode 49, we got to go through the numbers.
Yeah.
And we got some good names on there. Sure, you went through it.
I've got a little list.
All right. We'll start. Ed Hearn, number 49, played on the 1986 Mets. Didn't make the team out of spring training. Barry Lyons did. But that was reversed by manager Davey Johnson in May. And Ed Hearn became the backup catcher for Gary Carter and played 49 games for the Mets that year. 265, he hit 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and he actually was the only player on the postseason roster not to make an appearance. Gary Carter played every inning, and Ed Hearn was a cheerleader, I guess, or whatever you want to call it.
Kind of tough to not have the kid in the lineup there at that point in time.
Yeah, exactly. The big thing with Ed Hearn, he was traded the next year for David Cohn.
Yeah.
So, a nice little return for Ed Hearn, a 1986 world champion. Next up, Todd Hundley. I did not expect to see 49 next to Todd Hundley.
I saw that as well. I saw that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was one of those lucky guys like me that got to get his number as soon as he got to the big leagues. He had to wait a little while to get his number because I know him as 9. Obviously, we all know him as 9.
Yeah.
But I guess he had the 9 in there with the 49, so he kind of still kept it with the 9 family. But I was a little surprised to see that as well.
Yeah, I was shocked. We obviously talked about Todd Hundley on episode 9 with his number. He did wear it for 2 seasons, 1990 to 1991, and then he changed over to number 9. He was we probably discussed this, but it was so long ago. One of the underrated Mets. He was a fan favorite. He played. He had records.
Yeah.
Just in your, what do you think about Todd Hundley and his Mets tenure? He played 9 years.
Oh, Todd was a great player for the Mets. He held the record for most home runs in a single season by a catcher. At one point in time, I remember busting his chops when Piazza came over and said, you might not have that record for too much longer, and he didn't like that much. But Todd was a good Met. Todd was a lot of fun. Todd and I lived in St. Lucie together, so we worked out during the wintertime together and got to become close friends back then.
Very cool. He was drafted in 1987, and interesting enough, he was the comp pick that the Mets selected for Ray Knight.
Wow.
So it's all, you see how it all connects,
Yes, it does.
Hundley played 9 years, funny enough, number 9, for the Mets, 2 All-Star appearances, and like Bill alluded to, he had the home run record that was set in 96, 41 home runs, most ever in a single season for the Mets, and he beat Darryl Strawberry for that. Also, most home runs for a catcher at the time. He beat Eclipse, I should say, Roy Campanella, who had it for 1953. So
I was around for that year. I was actually rehabbing Tommy John, but it was an exciting year for him. Obviously, Gilkey and One Dog, Lance Johnson, had great years that year as well. But it was fun getting to watch Todd bop the ball out of the ballpark from both sides of the batter's box, both sides of home plate.
Yeah, he was a switch hitter, and he was a good hitter. And then obviously, you mentioned Piazza. There was no room anymore for Todd Hundley. They had the left field experiment that didn't go all that well. That was not.
Did I tell you? I think I told you this story before. I can't remember that. In Wrigley Field, Todd was out there, was having a little bit of a rough time with the sun. And late in the game, I was told by Bobby Valentine to go pretend like you're warming up to possibly go in to pitch. But I was actually going to get loose to possibly go and be a defensive replacement for Hundley. It didn't happen. I actually ended up pinch running, the only time that I pinch ran in my major league career. But I was actually was that close to being able to say that I was a position player as well as a pitcher, but it never happened.
Wow. I did not know that story. That would have been, if awesome. That happened, that would have been awesome for you.
Yeah.
And quite the story.
And not so good for Todd, obviously, if you're getting replaced by a pitcher defensively.
No. And obviously his home run record was eventually broken by Carlos Beltran. I'm sorry, it was tied by Beltran in 2006, and then obviously broken by Pete Alonso, rookie year 2019 with 53.
Right.
But Todd Hundley was a good Met, and then he was traded because the Mets had Piazza on December 1st, 1998, three-way trade that brought Armando Benitez and Roger Cedeno to the Mets. And it was the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Orioles. Charles Johnson.
And what number did Benitez wear?
I'm getting there, buddy.
All right,
we're getting there. So that's Hundley. Before we get to Benitez, Pete Walker wore number 49, and I just had a feeling you know Pete.
I do. I know Pete. Pete was one of the first guys that I ever met in instructional league my first year of professional baseball. We actually never technically played together on a roster, but we did do 2 or 3 instructional leagues together. So he is one of my guys that I have on my list of number 49s because of the we go back so far, and obviously he's still doing it with the Blue Jays, I guess, as the pitching coach.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
For a long time. He's another guy that's another pitching coach that survived quite a few managers over the years.
Yep, him, Hefner, obviously.
Yep.
For sure. You alluded to it, Armando Benitez. It's funny how, again, this all ties together. Benitez wore it from 99 to 2003, number 49. Benitez, to me, was a little bit of an enigma, if you will. He was dominant in the regular season, it seemed like. And, the Mets obviously made the playoffs in 99 and 2000, and he didn't have it, It was tough to watch him, I'll put it, lately, in those postseason games.
He was always a little hit or miss and erratic throughout his career, but he had super electric arm. I remember seeing him all the way back from the Sally League when I was coming through the minor leagues. That was the first time I came across Armando when he was coming up with the Orioles and just throwing straight cheese with the nasty slider. Obviously, he's very remembered for the Tony Tarasco out in the outfield, and the kid Michael Mayer, was that his name? I can't remember the kid's
Jeffrey
name.
Mayer.
Jeffrey Mayer. There we go. Michael Myers, Jeffrey Mayer. But yeah, Armando was a big, strong dude, man. He threw gas.
Yeah, he was. He threw gas, like you said. 333 games for the Mets, 18-14, 270 ERA, very good. 160 saves, 456 Ks, and 347 innings. So he had a good Mets career. A little tainted, obviously, like I said, from some hiccups in the postseason. And I actually remember him in the Atlantic League. He played, I believe, the Newark Bears, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he still had that gas too.
Newark Bears always had a nice Latino contingency on their club.
Didn't the Bears also have Ricky Henderson?
Yes, Ricky played for them as well. Yep.
And when I was there, Tim Raines was their manager.
Yep.
Pretty cool. Last one, I don't know if you have any more, but the last one I have of, names wise, John Neese.
I didn't realize I saw that was nine seasons he wore that number. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He was a good pitcher.
He was a serviceable lefty. 08 to 2016. Long time.
Yep, for sure.
I have a few others. Say that again?
I said I do have a few others, but they're more personal than they would be historical for the Mets.
Go ahead.
Joe Vitko, who was another one that I did many a instructional league with in my minor league career. Briefly played with the Mets. He wore number 49. Same thing, Joe Crawford, another guy that I kind of came up through the minor leagues with, briefly played. And then the last one I have is personal for me as somebody that was my pitching coach when I was at AAA with the Cardinals, my last year in professional and organized baseball, and that's Dyer Miller.
Okay.
Who I saw for 2 seasons. Great dude, great pitching coach, old school guy. Not as many old school guys left around, but he was one of them. That was back in 05.
49 actually had some good names, I was happily surprised.
Yep.
We're going to throw the trivia question out right now.
All right.
Get it out of the way. It's a tough one. And like I said, we'll have one the next 2 podcasts. And you can direct message Shay_hello with your answer for this one. Here we go. Ready?
All right.
There's been only 3 players that have played for the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, and Giants. Who are the 3 players? It's not an easy question, but I feel like people will get it.
I'm not even going to attempt it right off the head.
Hey, I'd rather the listeners do it. So
would I.
So direct message Shay_hello with your answer. I'll repeat it one last time. 3 players have played for the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Giants. Who are the 3? Direct
Good
message.
Question.
I like it. So, spring training, Bill.
Yeah.
We are underway, full squad workouts. And I had the privilege of going to the first 2 at Clover Park. It was pitchers and catchers, but a lot of position players were there. And I just wanted to talk real quick about the vibes and what's changed. It was my 5th year going in a row.
Nice.
So I could, tell if anything changed or stuff like that. The big thing that stuck out to me was the players and the vibes. Everyone seemed very happy, loose, and obviously, getting their work in, but they were signing more autographs and very more fan friendly this year than I could remember in the previous 4. I don't know if it was told by like Mendoza or someone higher up, but it was definitely, you could tell. And, that was cool, to get up and close.
I've got a possible reasoning for that. I would think that coming off of the stringent um, regime prior to Mendoza and the way that they would probably go about things, where things were a little more probably uptight, and then last year not knowing maybe 100% what you were going to have with the leadership there with Mendoza and that. Now a year into it, knowing what type of guy Carlos Mendoza is and what he brings to the table and the excitement that he's brought to the organization and the player friendly as well as being serious about the job. I think that maybe makes everybody feel a little bit more at ease, possibly. I don't know.
I like it. Yeah, Mendoza, I feel like is a fun manager to play under. He's a player's manager.
I
The
think
the
so.
previous manager was a little more strict, if you
Yeah, a
will.
little more authoritarian type of
Yeah,
manager.
and I don't know if they did this back in your day, but they're riding in their golf carts.
Who is?
The manager.
You would see that back in the day for sure.
Okay.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
when I first came around, Dallas was an older gentleman, so he might have been taking the golf cart, but that's a
Yeah.
status thing, I guess. When you're riding around in the golf cart, you're one of the big wigs.
Yeah. I had the opportunity actually to get Mendoza's autograph, and
Nice.
he was funny. He's in typical Mendoza. If you could imagine his voice, he's like, "I can't sign a lot. I gotta go see the boys," and I just laughed.
Yeah.
Just the boys. But a lot of them were fan friendly, waving, signing, no pushback, and I just think they're coming off a good year. A lot of players had good years. Obviously, they went to the NLCS, and a lot of the same players are back. So they feel comfortable, like you were
Yeah,
saying.
for sure. Good
So
vibes. They know that there's positivity there. They landed the big fish in the market and then got back the hometown boy. So I think that bodes for happiness and for optimism.
yeah, I had a good time. And then I read actually the first full squad workout, which was Monday. They had when you walk in, they do the clicker, and count how many people come in. 1,700 fans. I don't know if that's a lot, a little, but the fact that they're tweeting it out, St. Lucie Mets did, it obviously is a big number.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that
and
seems like a
obviously,
decent number. I remember maybe a few hundreds back in the day, maybe a couple hundred or so, but 1,700's a decent number, I guess.
yeah, I mean, it was President's Day. A lot of people were off.
And school's off up here in New York, so there's probably a lot of Mets families that may have taken the trip down there and made sure they're stopping by St. Lucie to see the boys getting ready.
Yeah, I did that as a teenager, 5 years in a row. Back in the high school years, went President's Week every year to Port St. Lucie back in the early 2000s, I guess. And
Cool.
it was pre 2001, so you had a lot of access to the players. It was really cool.
Right.
So to put a bow on this, it kind of felt like that this
Nice.
year.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I wish
Yeah.
I could have been down there.
Yeah, it was a good time, and the weather obviously 85, sunny.
Wow.
So we got to move on. It wouldn't be spring training without an injury, right?
Yeah.
Frankie Montas, who signed for 2 years, 34 million, has a high grade lat strain and is shut down for 6 to 8 weeks minimum. And then, if all goes well, he'll have to ramp up for a month for his spring training. That would put him, middle of May. If
Yeah, he's
everything,
not going to be around anytime soon.
no.
And when you hear, when I read PS, what are they called? PRP shot. When I heard PRP shot,
Yeah.
that's a little concerning, obviously, because that means there's definitely a nice tear in there that they're going to try to heal. So
Yeah, I'm wondering how in the world that happened because he threw a bullpen and then it came home back to the field the next day and complained and you tore your lat in a bullpen.
I can tell you how.
Go ahead, please.
The TrackMan set up on your first bullpen, and you're trying to see how much spin you got and what velocity you got. Your first bullpen, and you overdid it. Excited for new team, nice contract, wanting to show what you got. They have the TrackMan set up. Back in my day, there was no radar guns and that on your first bullpens and all that, and that's where it's getting a little lost. I think where the radar guns and all that shit has to be out there at all times because I guess they're looking for baseline numbers, but I'm not sure if you need baseline numbers first. I mean, I could be wrong, but you were there. You saw the bullpens. Did you see the radar guns and the TrackMan setup?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And when you put a pitcher and an athlete and a competitor in front of a machine that's going to tell them what's going on, you're going to have a harder time of telling them, just go, go easy. We're just working our way into this.
Yeah, you would think they would go easy the first time around,
Yeah.
or
Don't put those machines out there.
you would think maybe I'll play devil's advocate. It would happen more, But
well, I think that a guy that's probably third or fourth year on the team, maybe go about it a little bit different than free agent signing, trying to show everybody that he belongs and he's, the real deal. And I mean, look, it's human nature and competitiveness. I would think he probably overdid it a little bit, overextending, trying to get out there and spin that sucker and crank some numbers up there right away. Because if it's up there, it might be getting reported. If it's getting reported, then you're not gonna want them saying, "Well, Montas was sitting 88 today." So that would be my guess, and I could be completely wrong, but that would be my guess.
Well, he's a big boy,
He is.
big guy. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I'm gonna say one thing because I said this the minute David Stearns signed him, Bill, and I hate being right about this, but I got it's on my mind, and I got to throw it out there to our listeners. I did not like the signing at all. It was so early in the free agency, and they gave him 34 million guaranteed. He's injury prone. Uh, they could have had other pitchers like a Walker Buehler, Flaherty, and this guy has had shoulder surgery. He's been on many teams since back when he was okay with the A's. The Yankees. He pitched like one game. Reds, Brewers, and just an injury prone guy. And David Stearns right away, right? It was like the first week of free agency, threw $34 million at him for an injury pro guy, and I just didn't understand it. Like, what are 29 other teams like going after Montas? Like, you can wait a little bit,
Yeah.
So, to me, it's on Stearns a little bit, So, I hate being right about it, but it seemed like it was a quick signing to a risky guy, and literally the first day that he threw, here we are. So,
well, obviously, you hope for him to get healthy quick, and it's not going to be right around the corner, but you hope for him to get healthy and to be able to get out there and help the ball club as soon as he possibly can. But you and I both know, and we've talked about it on and off pod, that obviously Walker Buehler would have been a nice signing, but then there would have been people that tell you that you're still signing a guy is he really healthy? Is he not? And obviously, he looked like he proved he was postseason last year, but it is what it is at this point, and I know we're going to get onto this next, but it's next man up time at this point in time.
You perfect segue. So it's a trickle down effect. Mendoza said they're still going to go with the 6-man rotation, and they have depth, right? McGill, Paul Blackburn, Griffin Canning. But to me, depth is great, but you need quality. And I'm sorry, I forgot Tyler McGill in there, who just always seems to find his way on the roster, always, every year, right?
Yeah, he's still sticking around there, and still now he's going to get another opportunity to show in spring training what he's capable of doing. Remember, this is a guy that was opening day starter just 2 years ago, and has had some success and has kind of been up and down. But obviously, he's going to be thrown back in the mix. It's crazy to think that we've gotten to the point to where we're paying pitchers the amount of money we are, and then they're going to get an extra day of rest and only have to go 5 innings. It's crazy to think that that's where we're at, but that's where we're at. And obviously, like we said last week when we were asked what are some of the storylines going into the season, this storyline has been brought even more into the spotlight now, and that's the starting pitching and where they sit. Because I don't think if you look at all of the top contenders teams and their starting rotations, I would say that the Mets might not be the strongest one of all the top contending teams.
Yeah.
At this moment, games need to be played, but at this moment, that's not their strength, I would say.
You hit the nail on the head there. Their rotation was their Achilles heel coming in, after they filled out their lineup, and their bullpen is pretty good on paper right now. but it was suspect with a lot of question marks in the rotation. Montas goes down. Now it's up to Stearns on do you go outside the organization, try to fill it, slim pickings, Uh, if you want Cease, who's still available, I think now the Padres know you're a little bit more desperate,
Yeah, you got to
So
start adding names into that trade package now, if they know that somebody's hurt. But another name that I know you've brought up is uh, I'm drawing a
yeah,
blank.
we'll
Give me
talk
his name.
about
Lefty.
we'll talk.
Cont-
We'll talk.
we're
Ready?
talking about it.
Yeah, we'll go right into him.
All
Ready?
right.
Jose
Jose
Quintana.
Quintana. I wanted to say Quintanilla, but I know it's not that. Quintana. He's
Yep.
still out there, and he was serviceable last year.
Yeah. Now, Jose, and before we just get into Quintana, Brandon Sproat, who's the Mets' #1 pitching prospect, if he has a couple good starts at AAA to start the year, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him up as well.
It's not bad for a young guy to be able to come up into a 6-man rotation too, because that'll be a little more similar into what they're doing in the minor leagues nowadays too, with Monday being an off day every
Yeah.
week now in the minor
Yeah.
leagues.
So yeah, you bring up Jose Quintana. I don't know why he's not signed at all.
He's old.
Like he's 36, and still a free agent. And today they actually announced that he's starting Game 1 of for Colombia for the WBC qualifiers against Brazil, and that game is on March 2nd.
There we go.
So he's healthy, right?
He is healthy,
but yet no teams signed him, and he's coming off. And I wrote a couple stats down. And we all remember last year. We watched it, right?
Yep.
He was incredible down the stretch for the Mets. And real quick, he finished the year 10-10 with a 3.75 ERA, very serviceable, right? He's been in the league 13 years, crafty veteran. In the month of September, Bill, 3-1 with a 0.73 ERA in the month of September. Like he's got gas left in that tank. He started the winner go home game 3 wild card game against the Brewers with the game winning home run, 6 shutout innings, and then he went 5 1/3 scoreless innings against the Phillies in the NLDS. He also during that for 6 weeks, ready? Over 42 1/3 innings, his last 7 starts, 0.63 ERA, and had a career best 25 2/3 scoreless. So he obviously has a lot left in the tank, and I don't know why he wasn't signed.
You remember that? Remember that TrackMan I was talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, those numbers that he's putting up on that TrackMan don't compute with the guys that didn't play, that are making the analyzing the player. They're not actually going by those numbers that you just read off. They're going to go more by what that TrackMan is saying. That's probably in their minds telling them that he can't get people out, even though he's going out there getting people out. And that's not just the Mets. That's probably league wide, where they're saying, well, it's only a matter of time before this guy who knows how to pitch, and the best pitcher of the last 30 plus years was the guy that threw 88 miles an hour. Something's telling him that he can't do it, I guess, or he's asking for too much money, which I highly doubt.
Highly doubt.
He wants to be on a big league roster right now, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it was reported by one of the reporters, I forget, that it would be a 1-year deal for
of course.
peanuts.
Yeah.
And
it's
early
worth rolling the dice.
Yeah,
I think, especially if you're going to 6-man rotation, he's only going to be that much better with an extra day rest every time out there. So it's not a bad thought. Obviously, they got some other guys that they signed, but Blackburn's coming off of an injury as well. We know that McGill's been a hit or miss. So I think it's something that I wouldn't be surprised if they look into it a little bit. Maybe see what he looks like on March 2nd.
Right.
And go from there.
Yeah. He did have interest of returning to the Mets, and the Mets didn't at the time. But, here we are with a big injury, the trickle-down effect. And like you said, McGill hit or miss, Blackburn off a lot of injuries to his back, and Griffin Canning, he led the league in the AL last year in giving up the most runs. So
right. Not
if you
necessarily
ask
what you're
me,
looking for.
Right. I'll take Quintana off of what he showed last year. He had balls. He pitched well. The brightest lights. And
Pitched
maybe
pitched some of the biggest games of the season and must win, do or die games, and did what a starter's job, which is keep your team in the game and give your team a chance to win the game.
yeah, we'll see what David Stearns does. He might stay internal, but Jose Quintana for me, you got to make that call. Have to, you know. Uh,
I wouldn't say it's a bad idea to have him back on another. And it's again experience and also familiarity with the ball
yeah,
club and with the clubhouse.
we'll see what he does, Stearns. You know, Montas is kind of on him, so let's see. And by the way, today is David Stearns' 40th birthday. So
40th.
yeah, he looks like he's 20, but
He's still young to be
yeah,
running the second highest payroll in all of Major League Baseball.
yeah. Uh, Speaking of Stearns, two guys that he was very involved in, maybe not as much as Steve Cohen. Let's get into Juan Soto and Pete Alonso real quick, arriving at camp. First on Sunday it was Juan Soto. First time we really saw him in Mets gear. Orange and blue looks good on him. Met the press after his first workout. Tons of press.
Of course.
Uh, and arguably the biggest free agent signing in Mets history. You could put Belcher on there. We'll see what Soto does. But, Soto, generational talent, 26 years old. That was a fun day, seeing him arrive.
Seems like
Uh,
it's been years in the making, kind of. Even though there was the question as to who he was going to sign with this year. But I remember as far back as his days being a national, people doing the thing online of photoshopped photos of him in Mets gear. So it seemed like it was only a matter of time, and that time has finally arrived.
yeah, and it was close to not happening. The Yankees were right there to the very end.
Yeah, they made a bid. They were never going to be the highest bidder. They don't
He
spend the
wanted to
money like
be.
they used to.
It was close, but I think he wanted to be a Met.
I think so too.
Just when
I
all is
think
said and
both
done.
teams. I think, to be honest with you, I think the Yankees got better without Soto, and the Mets got better with adding Soto.
Yeah, I mean the Yankees got Fried and Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, maybe a little past his prime. You never know, but that's why you play the game.
That's right.
So the next day, Pete Alonso. We talked about it last episode, but he was kind of in hiding for the whole winter. You never really saw him. Boris was doing it all. We talked about it in length last episode, but it was good to hear him after his first workout, see him. He met the press, and you knew the reporters were going to ask all the questions about, the contract and this and that. I don't know if you saw it, his answers, but
I did not.
I saw a little bit, and we know Pete. He's been a homegrown Met, 6 years with the Mets. He was very professional. It seemed like he knew the questions that were coming, and he had it ready. But thankfully, he did say LFGM at the end of it, so we got a little bit of that Pete Alonso edge in there. He was a little sarcastic. They asked about the home run record and if he thought about it, and he said no, and then he smiled and said, "Of course,"
Yeah.
So I expect a big year from Pete. I really do. With Soto on the door in front of him, and basically, like he's got 24 guaranteed million if it doesn't work out next year. I just my gut tells me he's gonna have a big year. He just does. It's not bias,
I look. He's going to obviously get some more pitches to hit this year than he got last year. I'm just hoping that we don't have a guy that's playing for another contract next year, still trying to make a big splash in the market. $54 million over 2 years. And I know everybody wants to make as many dollars as they possibly can, but he'll be all right for the rest of his life, and so will his kids with this contract alone and the money that he's made up to this point. So my biggest hope for Pete is to go out there and just be Pete Alonso and play baseball and not try to play for another contract and just let the chips fall the way that they may, because it was obvious to everybody last year he was playing. And while he was still a great team player and still played for the team, it was obvious that he was playing with the weight of playing for the contract. And that's what I don't like, that there's an option after the first year for that exact reason, because Pete's already shown that it could be an issue playing for a contract again. So knowing that you got 54 million, I hope that that's the mindset that he brings in, not thinking I've got 30 million this year and I'm trying to play for 160 or 180 or whatever it may be the following year.
Yeah,
because then it's going to be drawn out all again, because there's another free agent first baseman out there that's going to wait till the last freaking day to sign too. So hopefully he's thinking these things and just tries to focus on in between the white lines, in between games, during the games, and not worry about the money that's going to be, because he's $30 million. Man, you give me $30 million this year, you'll never see my face again.
Yeah. He actually mentioned $30 million, and it was a very Boris-like quote. He was like, "That's the highest ever for a first baseman." It was like tipping his cap to Boris, or I don't know, but
I
he
mean,
did.
yeah, I guess. Look, man, he can hang, because I think Pete likes to hang his hats on those types of things, and I think the hiring of Boris is another one of those things. So if he can now hang his hat on the fact that he's the highest paid first baseman of all time, and that gets him motivated, on a 1-year deal or whatever annually, then great. Whatever's going to make Pete be the best ball player that he possibly can be, I'm all for it.
They did last thing. They did ask him about the contract season played into. He actually alluded to this, and I was very happy. It was like a humble Pete. He did say that he had a down season last year. He acknowledged it, and also in 2023. So he's like, I didn't expect 7 to 10 years or whatever because of my last two. He said that, and it was acknowledging that is the first step.
Sure, to moving
You know,
forward. Yeah, good for
right?
him.
Yeah,
I
and
think. I mean, I'm not going to tell him what to do, but I think maybe Boris isn't the guy moving forward. Maybe
yeah,
he is. I don't know. I don't know what their relationship is.
they asked him also with when Steve Cohen said the word exhausting for the negotiations. They asked Pete about that, and he smiled and he said, "Not for me." It was Boris that was dealing with it.
Yeah.
But he
I would think
smiled.
that the Mets brass has probably got a little bit tired of hearing Boris's voice and thoughts between all of the negotiations between the three players that are his players that have signed, and now with the fourth player still out there, who we're going to talk about here shortly, still out there. I'm sure they're probably tired of hearing Scott Boris's voice, I would think.
Yeah. The last thing that came out to me when he was talking, they asked him if he did put pressure on himself because of the contract year, and he said, "There's pressure every year. This is the big leagues." So it was a good answer, and there's no follow up questions. So very by the book, high road, if you will.
Yes, I agree. By the book.
So I expect a big year from Pete. We'll see what happens. And you alluded to it, Jose Iglesias, right? Another Boris client who was the glue of the Mets last year with the OMG
Big
and
time.
yeah. He had a sit down lunch in Miami with John Heyman and had some
I
really
wonder how that came about.
well, we all know Heyman and Boris are,
Okay.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of odd. Yeah, lunch with Heyman, and then all the quotes came out, and I'll just read you really quick. He said this. He said, "I'm still holding out to return to the Mets." Quote: "It hurts to be, it hurts to be where we started, and we're not done. It took a lot for us to get where we got. That's what hurts. I guess I know it's a business, but it definitely hurts. It's a special relationship I have and culture with the organization, players, and fans." And then Heyman said that Jose would sometimes refer to the Mets as we, and then Jose would really quickly correct himself.
Yeah.
So he wants to come back. He's not signed. The rumor was the Mets did offer a 1-year contract. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, he's basically begging to come back. And to me, we're in the middle of spring training, not the middle, the beginning. And it was reported that he has other offers. He even said that. So what are we doing, Jose? Like, if you got other offers and you really want to come back to the Mets, don't screw your career. You're 36, 35. Like, at some point, you got to let go.
I think possibly he thought going into the off season that what he did for the organization and what the way that they turned around and everything. That OMG made Grimace go away completely. Nobody, Grimace was still trying to hang on people, but nobody cared about Grimace so much anymore. He probably thought that it was going to be a done deal right away, and that's not the way that Stearns operates. And Stearns is one of those guys that likes to put his mark on a ball club, and it might do. Somebody else has to lose out for that, maybe. And unfortunately, It might have been Jose. But obviously, if you ask 10 Mets fans if they'd like Jose Iglesias back next year, or this season, I think you'd have 10 Mets fans tell you absolutely they'd love to have Jose Iglesias back. And I bet you if you ask the guys in the clubhouse, would you like to have Jose back on the club other than maybe Jeff McNeil? There might be a lot of guys that say, yes, I definitely want him back.
Yeah, and this, as we put a bow on it, these remarks came after Stearns was asked about him, and he just said, that ship has sailed because of roster flexibility. We can't have all positions frozen. They have McNeil, Acuna, they signed Nick Madrigal. Like, if you get Jose Iglesias, he mentioned the word frozen. Iglesias doesn't have an option. All the other players do.
Right.
You have McNeil. He obviously is not going to play right field this year because of Soto.
Yeah, but Stearns is DFA'd guys and all that too. So that sounds like the same thing that we talked about last week with Stearns. I mean, with Cohen sitting down and saying the things that he said at FanFest. I think that would be more of me personally. I would take that as a bargaining thing as opposed to because look, you can sign somebody and DFA somebody. It's not. I don't have to send him down if he's not doing his job. You don't worry about sending him down. You release him.
Right.
We've already seen that happen on guaranteed contracts last year. So I take that more as just a business. That's business talking more than actual facts.
I agree with you. Stearns has done that a lot, and the players have returned.
He's got to give an answer, right? And he gave an answer that does make sense. But
he did.
You release a guy,
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. It's going to
happen. And McNeil would have trade value if it came down to it,
Yeah.
Madrigal still's got to prove. He's got something to prove this spring. Because like we said, you look at his numbers the last couple of years. Well, he came up a highly touted first round pick, I guess 5th overall. He's got something to prove now. Because none of that stuff matters anymore. First round pick. None of that doesn't matter anymore. Now it matters what you're doing on the ball field day in and day out.
And he's coming off a really bad year. So yeah, he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But he has an option. And Stearns likes that. He could be sent to the minors,
Yeah, but I mean, I would think that Madrigal's, and as somebody that's had options and somebody that's been big league, AAA, big league, AAA, big league, AAA, that those are tough guys to have around because they're not going to be happy if they're down in the minor leagues, and they're also not going to be ready to play and succeed at the big league level because guess what? If you go 0 for 3 today, guess where you're going to be? You're going to be on the train, on the plane, on the bus,
Not fun.
No, it's not. So it's a tough situation for Madrigal, for sure. Yeah. But he's going to get the opportunity in spring to go out and play and see what he can do. And obviously, second base is McNeil's job right now.
Absolutely, it's McNeil's job to lose. And the last thing about it, they don't have right now a backup shortstop other than Acuna.
Yep.
So Iglesias would help with that. But maybe Acuna makes the team. I don't know, but you would want Acuna to play.
As a young guy, we talked about this before. As a young guy, you need to be on the field. Right. It's easier for the older guys to get less at bats. We talked about it before with Marte, where you feel like Marte is going to have a really successful year, not having to have as many at bats and getting some rest. It's easier for a 35, 36-year-old guy than it is for a 24, 25-year-old guy.
Yeah. We'll see what Jose decides. He's a Boris client. Time is ticking, So, I
still would like to see him. I know you would too. Like I said, most Mets fans would love to see him.
Yeah.
He was huge last year. Huge.
Absolutely.
Can't be said enough. And it's been said a million times.
Yeah. He was great, and he wants to come back, but we'll see. It's going to happen soon. So it is time, Bill, for the mailbag.
Wow, that went quick.
Are you ready?
I am always ready for the mailbag.
All right. We got a bunch of questions to get to. We'll start first with Jeff Cohen at Jeff Cohen 41. He has a podcast, Baseball on BBQ. Check it out. He has a question for you and for me. We'll start with you. Pulse, who was responsible for the running? Responsible for running the PFP? Was it the manager, pitching coach, some other coach? And were there specific days it was worked on?
PFP, because it was never done with the whole pitching staff at one point in time, because you would have like kind of groups where you would be at a certain place and then there would be that group of people and then another group of the pitchers. So it was usually either ran by a pitching coach, the pitching coach, or because there's so many guys in big league camp when big league camp first starts, non-roster invitees, minor league guys that are in. There's other minor league coaches that would be there as well. So they might be involved in running the PFP, obviously going through the manager and through the pitching coach and through the pitching coordinator as to what is going to happen on any specific day. But early on in camp, it's pretty much every day. As camp gets a little bit longer or deeper into camp, it might not be every single day. But early on in camp, it's every single day you're doing some form of PFP. Yeah. But and then it turns into where it'll become a full squad thing when you get into cutoffs and relays or bunt plays, and then obviously the manager then will be on the field, and then the whole everybody will be there at that point in time for when it becomes more of a full group thing for fielding practices or cutoffs and relays or bunt plays. But pitching coaches or other pitching coaches that are through the minor or through the organization.
Yeah, I saw it the first couple of days they did it. I saw Jeremy Hefner do it, lead it, Mendoza, a couple other coaches. So take your pick.
I always had fun. I mean, look, it gets a little tedious, especially when you do 3 instructional leagues like I did before getting to the major league level, where you're doing it nonstop. But I always had fun because it was a way of trying to try things, different attempts of making plays where you don't have to worry about if you made a bad throw or if you missed the ball, because you're just kind of working on stuff a little bit.
Right.
I enjoyed
it. He's got a question for me. Casey, have you been to other spring training facilities in Florida? He writes, I've been to several in Arizona. Dodgers have a great facility. To answer his question, yeah, I've been to all of them on the East Coast. They're all packed together. Jupiter, obviously Port St. Lucie, West Palm Beach. They're all 20 minutes away from each other. So very easy to get to. And I believe the Nats, I forget, there's a couple teams that share a facility.
Yeah.
Marlins, Astros.
Well, is it the Marlins Cardinals are in Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
Was it? It was whoever the Marlins back in the day, was it Satellite Beach? Is that what it's called? It was a little further north.
I don't remember that.
And they weren't there long.
Oh, could have been long.
You know what's crazy is, and this goes back to fantasy camp, which it always seems to, is the minor league clubhouse. It's always kind of been something special to me because it's where I came up through the minor leagues. But I was watching this video the other day about the facilities that the Twins have for their minor leaguers, and the guys that's like they put them up in dorms and that on the facility, and they have auditorium where they can sit and watch lectures of the going through the bunt, whatever it may be, bunt plays, PFPs, cutoffs and relays. And now that I've seen what the Twins have, I kind of see why the Mets are tearing down the minor league clubhouse area and putting up the new facility, which is going to be where Field 2 was, which is the turf field. I don't know if they started yet. I think it's going to be by next year, but I could see why they need to step their game up, because it's crazy what the Twins have. And, obviously the Mets have a lot more money to spend than the Twins. So while it's kind of a bummer to know that the minor league clubhouse is going to be gone, I can see why they're making the change.
That's
it's very impressive what the Twins have. It was insane what I saw.
They're in Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff, for the question. We'll move on to JK at NYMGI. He's got a question for both of us. Same question for both. How surprised are you that Pete waited to the last day to report? Do you think it was a statement by him to show up for his displeasure after how it all played out? I'll take it first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think so at all. When he reported on Monday, it was like 7 a.m. First one to show up, first one on the field, and he got signed just 2 weeks ago. You got to find a place to live. You got to get to that place. You got to uproot, whoever's coming with you, your dogs, your wife. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And he did show up. And he had all smiles. So I think it just the timing dictated him reporting on the last day.
I can agree with all of that 100%, but I can also say I think Pete likes having his little thing too. And if he would have came the same day that Soto was showing up, he wouldn't have been able to possibly have his little time to have his time in the sun. And I think Pete does enjoy his time in the sun. That's why he does the home run derby still, 6 years into it, where most guys, they do it 1 or 2 years and they say, okay, I'm good with that. So yeah. I think that had something to do with it too. I don't know if it was a showing you back or whatever. I don't think that's a good way to go into a new relationship, a new old relationship. I don't think Pete's that type of guy. I think that he wanted to have maybe a little bit of shine as well as there was a lot of T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted before he could to make his way back over.
Yeah, I agree with you. Soto was Sunday. That was his day. Pete came Monday. That was his day.
Sure. And you know what? Maybe they even told him that too. So it's good because the Mets, these teams like a little bit of pub. They like that kind of stuff, especially this time of year when there's not a lot going on.
Yep.
Yeah, we get the back page the next day or whatever it may be. That's always been a thing.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. But Pete is, Soto had a lot to do with it, and Pete's not that type of guy. So, thank you for the question, JK. We have a question from Stacy NYC at Hustle Diva 1. She's got a question for you, Bill.
Okay.
For Bill, I've been seeing some football drills in spring training from position players and pitchers. Have seen them in the past years as well. What is your take on the benefit or purpose of them? Did you ever partake in these kind of drills?
Yeah, we used to do a thing for running where the pitching coach would have a baseball, and you would have somebody guarding you like you were a wide receiver. And it was part of our running, or part of our conditioning. And you would try to run some form of a route and beat your opponent, which was another pitcher. And the pitching coach would then throw the ball and you would try to catch it, and then it would flip-flop back and forth. So that's something that goes back well over 30 years now. I haven't seen what she's necessarily talking about, what the position players are doing, but definitely did some stuff like that, And we would also do another thing where you would not just have somebody covering you, but you would run up to the pitching coach, flip him a baseball, run a little pattern, and he would throw the ball out to you, and you would run and, run under it like you were going for a long bomb. So it kind of takes away, it puts a little bit of competitiveness in there when you have the guy guarding you. And it also kind of breaks the monotony of just running, quote unquote, just to run. You're kind of putting a little bit of fun into it and not making it just a chore.
I'll piggyback on that because I did see what she's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
It was explained why they were rounding bases, the position players basically, and throwing the football right before they would hit the bag. And the benefit was for them to keep their eyes and their head up while catching the ball, so they could see the coach and everything in front of them while also catching. You had to catch the ball and concentrate hitting the bag, but also keeping your head up was the benefit.
I would hope that you're looking at the coach before you get to the base.
Yeah.
I would hope.
That's where, but, catching a football with your head up, not the easiest thing to do.
No.
It's
as you're trying to tag a base too, huh?
Yeah.
Whew.
That's what I think the benefit is.
So now we're being taught to run and don't look at the bases.
No, they're trying to. Well, actually, that's a good point. I got to look back at the video. I believe the ball was actually thrown after they hit the base.
So as they come around the base.
Yes.
I mean, I was going to say, because I'm going to relate this to PFP just a little bit. They teach the first baseman to get the ball to the guy before he gets to the base for that exact same reason, because it's hard to catch the ball, reach for the base, tag the base all at the same time. So they teach first baseman to get the ball to the pitcher before he gets to the base. That way he does have an opportunity to look down and tag the base. So it would make a little more sense, I guess, to throw him the ball before or throw him the ball after.
Yeah,
you're really taught to look at the coaches. Let's say I'm going from first to third. As I'm running from first to second, I'm picking up my third base coach before I get to second base.
Of course.
Then because I got to look down to touch the base, and then I'm going to look back up again and catch my coach again if he's telling me to stop or if he's waving me along.
Yeah. Well, it's something new, I guess, with the bases and the players.
Yeah.
But I like your analogy with PFP for the pitchers.
Yeah. I would think that might come from the strength and conditioning guys, because I remember, believe it or not, this is crazy, because back in my day, the pitchers still hit. So we did base running drills, and we had a strength and conditioning guy who told us to find a piece of a little dirt clod and to run with the dirt clods in our fingers so we could run more loosely, so you're not tensing up when you run. And so I would think maybe the football thing and the running of the bases might be something that's coming from somebody that might not have ran bases.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a good point.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, it's a very good question because it was, new.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Stacy. We got 2 more questions. We'll go Steve at NYFD917 for both of you. Other than Soto, who, in your opinion, were the biggest free agent signings in Mets history? I think we touched on this a couple episodes before, but Steve is asking us. Do you want to take it first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Think look, it's obviously can be argued because at the time, these guys were the biggest, quote unquote, the biggest free agents on the market, whether they were re-signs or whether they were somebody that signed from another organization. But I would obviously say you have to start with Bobby Bonilla, because at the time he signed the biggest contract in baseball history.
Yep.
$6 million a year. Holy cannolis! How can you pay somebody $6 million a year?
Uh-huh.
And then obviously Piazza, where they traded him, but then had to sign him back. And then Beltran, same thing, where he was the biggest free agent out there, and they re-signed him. So I would say it's got to be those 3 guys, because at the times of those signings, those were the 3 biggest free agents available, just like Soto was the biggest free agent available this year.
Yeah. I'll even throw in Yoenis Cespedes after he was traded, and then they re-signed him, kind of like Piazza. And I agree with you. Those 3 that you mentioned, absolutely. Last question. Thank you for the question, Steve. This is from Jimmy Lags. Jimmy Lags 678. For both of you, same question. What are your overall impressions so far with manager Carlos Mendoza? Go ahead.
I think he's proven that he belongs. He's proven that the players trust him. He's proven that the organization trusts him. Through the ups and downs last year, after 5 games, there was people, calling for his head already. Like, what are we doing? And he was able to maintain his composure, right the ship, and has a group of ball players that seem like they really enjoy playing for him. And he knows that they have his back. And I don't think that it could have went short of winning the World Series. Obviously, I don't think that his first year could have went any better for Carlos. And he's been fantastic so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned the 0-5. They were also 11 games under 500 early, and he dug. Obviously the team dug themselves out. Manager has a lot to do with that when you're that far. 11 under.
Well, they kept their cool, man. He even keel. Happy,
I like him.
Being happy. I remember when they won the first playoff series, him talking about being happy, being happy. So he's happy to be there, and he's been making the absolute very most out of it.
Yeah. For a rookie manager, not bad,
Outstanding.
A lot of adversity and where they ended up 2 games from the World Series, pretty damn good.
And it's got to be tough for a guy, because he's not an older guy. And
No.
He's a guy that didn't have a major league career.
Right.
So when you're dealing as somebody that played the major leagues and had coaches that, didn't play in the major leagues, or a guy that in the minor leagues who felt like, I'm going to the big leagues and you're telling me something you never played in the big leagues, that's got to be a hard one to balance. And obviously he's done a tremendous job of doing that. And he's got guys like Lindor, who's a superstar, and Pete, and now obviously Soto is going to be in the mix. Big name guys that are buying into a guy that didn't necessarily play in the major leagues.
Yeah. Could have probably been a better year for a rookie manager.
Yep. Short of the World Series. That's what more could you ask?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens for year 2 with him.
Absolutely.
That's going to wrap up the mailbag. It is time for quick pitches. I know you're ready.
I'm always ready.
I'm ready. 3 questions. Ready?
Yes.
Number 1. What fruit would you be if you were a fruit?
An onion.
Is the onion a fruit?
No.
No.
But I'm going with the Shrek thing because of the layers. I don't know. Fruit. What fruit would I be? I would be an orange.
Orange. Okay.
Yeah, juicy, tasty.
Okay. And there's a layer there, like onion.
There you go.
I like
You're
it.
following me.
I am. I'm connecting with you there. All right. Number 2. Would you rather be a hero or a villain in a movie?
Oh, I probably would play a good villain, but I would rather be a hero. I'd rather be doing good, but I probably would be better at being the bad guy. Seems how my wife might tell me what a bad guy I am.
Yeah. Hero probably is more fun, to be remembered, but
Right.
I would have more fun being a villain in the movie,
For sure.
But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Number 3, last one. If you could travel back in time, when and where would you go?
I would go back to 1995 and not hurt my elbow.
I feel like I asked this question, actually.
No? I
No?
don't think so. No.
Okay.
I'd go back to 95 and then hope not hurt my elbow and see what could have happened.
That's a fair question. Fair answer. Yeah.
Yep.
1995 with the sideburns. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's going to wrap up quick pitches. We have a little fruit, little movie action, and
Little time travel.
Little time travel. I'm always a sucker for time travel, like Back to the Future, and frequency.
Absolutely.
So we had a jam-packed episode. A lot of stuff happened, and we're right in the thick of baseball season. It is here. Injuries and everything.
Yeah. Thank goodness. I'm ready for it because I'm tired of this winter time. Although I know it's still so far away, and it's going to be cold when the season starts. But at least hope springs eternal, they say.
Yeah. And before you know it, man, they'll be playing exhibition games this weekend, and before you know it, real games in a month. So
can't wait.
Or 5-6 weeks, whatever it is. So baseball is back. Very happy. We're gonna have a lot to talk about in the coming weeks, obviously. Any last words, Bill, to everybody listening?
No, man. As always, just thanks for everybody that is listening. Thank you, Casey, for hosting a good show as always, and we'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Absolutely. So for Chris and Bill Pulsifer, my name is Casey Lynn saying so long from the Say Hello podcast.
See ya.